of the June, what's today, 23rd, voting committee. Roll call. I see second, Walbert here, Bell here, Foley here, Ration here, Tully here for voting members. I don't think we're going to see Michael Chen or Amy today. Mike Morrow may be joining us a little later. We'll keep an eye out on that as far as attendance for non-voting members. Stuart, our advisor, thank you, Stuart. Other ex officio non-voting members, I see Kevin is on, Leon, Officer Di Federico or Captain Di Federico, thank you. Andrew's going to join later. And from Town Hall, Joe Dereski, Tiger Man, Maria, Copeland. Anyone else? Joe, are there any public comments or questions?
No public comments.
Okay, well, let's get going then with item 3 on the agenda, draft presentation. Now, again, this is a draft, and first thing I want to say is Stuart, thank you very much for putting this together. It's absolutely wonderful, and we really appreciate your efforts on our behalf. And absolutely, thank you. Really terrific stuff. Terrific stuff.
You're welcome, Bill. I deem this as a draft that the committee is, it's waiting for the committee input. That's
exactly. It's a working, living, breathing document. So when the building committee does go forward to the town bodies with what we recommend and other alternatives that we considered, this, we want the building committee to feel comfortable that we all have our input to what we're actually going to be presenting. And this is, so that's what this is. As you can see, when you go through the documents on page 2, going through the choices, go back to the big picture, to the town bodies who haven't been maybe as close to it as we all have, and as Kevin has, going through the looking for the different locations and for a desire to build a brand new building, and how that worked out, the choice of the architects, the fact that there are really get people up to stuff. There are really two major architects that do most police stations in this area. We'll be voting on that later today. Reiterating the fact that it is an old building, nearly 100 years old, designed as a school. And going back to 81 when we had the last major renovation to it. And as Stuart lays out here beautifully, we want the town bodies to understand it's not just any old building. It's an essential building. There's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of necessities that go along with being an essential building. And town bodies need to understand that this isn't, from a cost perspective, there are a lot of things that have to go be considered in dealing with an essential building, the uniqueness of them, the safety aspects of them, clearly important as well. And then going to where the rubber will meet the road, on page 10, when we talk to whether we can or should vacate the building. Obviously, the building committee decided we should vacate. It's debatable whether we will talk to whether we can. Of course, if we do a town hall solution, it's even debatable whether we could. So that is something that may be considered of taking it out. And then we get to the actual design of putting it where it currently is, whether we just renovate as new the existing building, or whether we add an addition, an addendum on the back. I don't want to go through that too much in detail now because we haven't voted on it yet. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, if you will. So we go back to that later. And then, page 17, we talk to advantages of putting a new addition on the back. And I think, that is something that we will spend a lot of time on if that's the direction we choose, because it is an extra, pick a number, 5.5 million, the round number of costs for an addition that is 25% new. And but as we all know, it is where the rubber meets the road, is where the important safety things of a police station are handled. And we can talk to that in more detail as we before we vote. But I think in the presentation, that's going to be a big part of it as well. I think Leon will be key in that as well, in talking to town bodies about why that's something that the town building committee believes in. And then, of course, the cost comparison, which is, let me see, why didn't mine print out? Oh, funny, of course I don't have it in front of me. But for the cost comparison, the way it's laid out, I happen to like, and we can go through the others as well. But in the end, we're talking to the town bodies about what we can deliver for a certain amount of money. How we decide to shuffle those cards really gets decided with us and the architect we choose in the coming months. It's really us trying to convince the town bodies what they get, what kind of bang they get for their buck, and why we recommend them spending a certain amount of bucks. And we can go through that in a little more detail as we discuss, debate what plan we're going to recommend. But I want to put this presentation out there for you guys to think about and to move, feel, that you have, that we as a committee can provide the input to move that thing forward when when that happens. Kevin, is there any timing per se of when you think this is going to happen to the town bodies?
Well, as soon as you guys are ready to make a recommendation to the Board of Finance, we'll start with the Board of Finance.
Yeah, and when is their next meeting, July
12th.
July 12th. Got it. All right.
Hey, Bill,
Yes.
Paul, can I make a suggestion here?
Yes, sir. Paul?
Paul, you're losing you.
Yeah, there you go. Try again.
Yeah, now, can you hear me now?
I can hear
Yeah,
you.
try again. All right, could we just include an additional slide, and Stuart can come up with this, I know,
Mhm.
is a timeline for this, in that
Oh.
when this committee started, but even before that, I mean, we've been trying to get this building done for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years now.
Mhm.
We've had placeholders put in. We've been jumped by other projects in town.
Mhm.
And every time we've been jumped, the costs go up.
Mhm.
And as the years have gone by, the police station has deteriorated dramatically.
And Bob, the other thing about that is it shows the town bodies that this has been run up the flagpole for a long time. That
Exactly.
had plenty of opportunity to weigh in. There is, I would call it, excellent consensus that this is the next project teed up and ready to go. And so in case anyone looking at this all of a sudden with new eyes and thinks that this is something that hasn't been contemplated for years, so kind of put that aside. No, this is
Right. I would like to put to bed
point, yeah.
anybody that raises their hand and says, well, have you thought about locating over there? I mean, I'm tired of that. All right. We've been down this road, and frankly, we've just got to put that to bed. We've had place markers for years,
Mhm.
and we've taken this seriously for a number of years. And this
Yeah.
committee has met for, I don't know, well over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, year and a half.
A
And
year and a half.
And Stuart does a great job in
Yep.
going through the work that precede, that was done tangentially with us and some of the thought process, but doesn't put a timetable, a timeline on it. I think that will help, state the fact that this has been considered and thought about by the town people for a long time, and that's important.
Great. Thank you.
we're gonna want to make a few, I think this presentation is terrific. I so much appreciate your putting it together, Stuart. And I just think let's go through the discussion. And I think there are going to be some other changes, based upon our discussion today that we might want to, make to it. We'd probably want to also include a timeline going forward,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
For town body approval, and then, potential construction and stuff like that, just to,
Yeah.
so that the town bodies, if we get it approval for the project this summer, what we want to do. And actually, when we do it, I mean, the question we'll need to decide is, do we want to add a slide, asking for the money? I think we probably do at this point, because we've got a good enough, or at least a timeline, at least getting, whatever we need to get through the design phase. But we definitely, need to have an ask to get all the design funds, if not the entire project. But, we probably want to do it with a bid and do a GMP and all that. So that would be, we just have to
think,
figure out that timeline.
Yeah,
forward.
Stuart, my compliments also. I think you did a great job putting this together. But I think we need to, as Penny just said, some discussion. We could have we should definitely need another iteration.
Yeah, once we know, okay, so, our meeting is going to be, our first, this will be presented to just the Board of Finance on July 12th. And we know the things that the Board of Finance is going to want to think about appropriately. And, we will be able to specialize the presentation, to laser focus on answering their questions.
Right.
And that's important. Yep.
Right.
But whatever we do, we're keeping the picture of the 1951 car or 1981 car. I love that. That was a great, that was great.
The year I graduated college. So,
Just somebody came in with an iPhone. Can you just
Yes.
identify yourself? Who that was?
Could be me. Is it Paul Foley?
no, there's another one.
Just recent.
Oh, okay.
Is that Mike Morrow?
That's Mike Morrow.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Mike.
another one.
All right.
Mike?
Hey, guys. Ladies. Sorry.
So, thank you, Tiger. All right,
Yep.
so we ready to go on to item 4, discussion and vote on design option and budget?
Yep.
All right, let's do that. The things that have been, proposed, on the table, I mean, there was the tear down completely and build it completely as new, though we did not update the price on that or the cost on that. There's the refurbish as new, and then as we call the town hall solution. I'll throw it out for discussion.
Well, first of all, I think we should really, especially in terms of the Board of Finance, we should just have 2 options. Rehabilitate the old building with keeping the old envelope, and option D, if you call it. And they ought to be the same cost, because although Humes did a lot of detail work, we don't really have any detail work from Castle Booze to make any substantial difference. So I think we just ought to maybe take the average of those 2 numbers and call that the number for the solution where we take off the back of the building.
I agree, because again, it's within the realm of their error rate, and it's just easier to pick a mean number between the 2, because again, we're with the Board of Finance, going through. I don't think they really want to get into the design nuts and bolts of it. They want to know what they're getting with the town's money appropriately. They're actually going to watch that for money.
We just ought to say we're dealing with 22.5 and 28.5 or 22 and 28, any number in there that's going to be 5.5 or 6 difference. But that's probably about what it's going to be, especially at the level of precision on the input that we have now on what's labeled here as C. So I would just modify this chart and take the architect question out of this. There just are 2 building options, and one is $5 to $6 million more than the other.
Yeah.
Agree with that, Stuart?
Yeah, fine. And would that be therefore, I'll take the architects' names off and simply leave it as renovate versus build new. That's what you're suggesting? Bill?
No, not build new, just renovate existing structure, renovate with adding a new rear structure or something, but very simple like that.
Okay, got it.
Because in terms of the town finances, it's how it's done is not the matter. It's a question of whether the town wants to finance 22 million or 28 million.
Yeah. I mean, when push comes to shove, we have to look at the town bodies and say we get enough incremental utility and value for the extra $5.5 million. That is really a big part of what we're deciding and voting on today. And then how we present it to the Board of Finance is, we can figure out before the 12th. But in the end, it's a big number, and we have to feel comfortable that is decision for the people that vote for it. If you don't feel comfortable with that, then it's absolutely appropriate to go with this strictly a refurbish the existing facility. So
Okay, I will
So,
simplify
okay.
that chart.
great. So in terms of, going forward on what project we want, I think actually the timeline that Stuart has added in here, showing that, we haven't touched this building really for 40, well, we did the third floor, but, we moved them there in 1981. We don't look at, as a town, we don't renovate the police station very often. And so, my goal is, I think it's all of our goals, is we want to set the police up well for the next 20, 30 years. Potentially 40, based upon what we did. I mean, we've determined that this building is going to last. And so I thought that Brian in his slides summed up very well the differences between adding a new addition and, and not. And I'd love to hear from our chief about what he thinks in terms of the functioning of the building, the doing a new addition rather than renovating the whole place as new would do for us. Would do for his team.
Leon?
Sure, glad to comment. Yeah, my strong preference and support is for the, if you will, town hall option, whereby we demolish the addition and build a new addition and make it all cohesive, renovate as new the rest of the building. I think for functionality for a lot of different reasons, efficiency, all kinds of reasons, having lived here for decades, the best option certainly is that new addition for a lot of different reasons. And all those benefits that Brian pointed out are very beneficial to our department. And I think, frankly, it's probably a 50-year plan, maybe 50 years before we do anything more here, but who knows? So I think given the investment that our officers make to the community, I think it's essential that we support that option.
Does anyone, Mike, I guess you're still on the call. Any sense of what the Board of Finance or Town Council's point of view on this is going to be?
I mean, I mentioned, that this project could reach $28 million last week. And, there were some audible gasps when they heard that number. So I'm just kind of putting that out there. Not saying that doesn't mean something like that number of that nature couldn't get approved. But I'm just saying there needs to be a compelling case to push up from 22 to 28. So the most compelling case needs to be made. And, the chief's comments just now are, very well taken as far as I'm concerned.
Look, I think if you give people two choices for these two boards that haven't been involved, that have never even walked through the police station, that have no idea what our professionals face every day, they're going to choose the cheaper choice. So I would not give them two choices. I would say we're the building committee. We've looked at this for well over a year, actually 3 or 4 years. And here's the best recommendation that we have. And it is going to be a higher number than what they thought it was going to be. But again, that 17 million that was quoted years ago you know, didn't take into any of this other information into account. So I would propose just giving one number and this is our best recommendation and go from there.
Can I make a comment?
Who is
Also,
that?
this is Rita Bettina, also on town council.
Hi, Rita.
Hi, Rita.
Um,
And welcome,
so
thank you.
what's that?
And welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, no, thank you for all the work that you're doing. I would agree with Mike. Mike has been primarily providing the updates, and I do think the $28 million is a lot. I think two things we need to make clear, and I think they will understand. One, prices have gone up. I think everyone understands that. So I think whatever original number that was put on the table people have to realize that it may be more than that. In terms of just providing one recommendation, I don't advise that. You know, telling a body they have one choice is not, I don't think that is a credible and a wise decision to make, because I think there will be pushback. I think it would be more prudent to lay out the options that you considered and why you are recommending one over the other, because there will be pushback.
Yeah, as I said last time on this call, you know, the town council will certainly take, you know, great weight of the recommendation. But as I said, please, you know, you need to be prepared. There still needs to be a presentation made. And, you know, so the town council can have all the information to make their decision. And, you know, Paul, I agree, you know, if there's walkthroughs that can be, you know, accommodated, but in an expedited fashion, so we can get to a decision here finally. But that case does need to be made to the town council.
I think with the work that Brian laid out, it is possible, and he did enough detailed work that we could actually pretty clearly state what advantages you can get from adding a new addition on the back. The physical training stuff's better, the locker room situation better, the jail's better, all kinds of things are better, substantially better, especially if you're trying to get, you know, 20 plus years. I think it's irrelevant whether you go 20, 30, 40, 50. If we can get 20, it's a win, because the future value of any money right now is not 20 years, it's gone. So I think that we have enough information to make the case, as Rita pointed out, of why it's better to do this as opposed to just to basically updating the old building.
Right, and I think both comments from Mike and Rita are excellent. And I also just wrote down walkthrough for Board of Finance and Town Council. Again, you know, I think that's a very appropriate thing to schedule before they're presented and voted. And whoever, you know, can make it. But it shows a complete willingness to you know, to get the inputs of the elected officials, and I think or town bodies, and I think Leon and I will work on getting that scheduled, probably two scheduled, so that people can see what's out there. I think that's a need to do before we or as we go to the town bodies.
I think Stuart would agree, but Stuart, I'm in my mind just doing a little pro forma on the scheduling. Let's assume this gets approved in August or September, and we start down the path. I think we're talking about 2 years from whenever that approval is. It's going to be 6 months of the design and development phase and to bid documents. Then it's going to be 18 months for construction, especially doing more construction rather than less construction. You agree with that, Stuart?
You know, this is where I'm going to defer to others that are on the call. They've got a lot more experience, but that would make sense. 6 months of design and 18 months of construction would make sense to me.
Paul Tolley, do you want to chime in on that?
I think it's pretty accurate. I would say that design drawings are going to take at least 6 months, maybe a little longer, because there's different iterations and it takes time. And then I think 18 months is pretty good. I'd maybe make it 18 to 24 months just to have a little bit of play in there, because delays happen in this business. They're inevitable. So I would say, maybe be a little more sort of towards 6 to 8 months, and then 18 months to 24 months to build.
And then I would
I
think.
don't disagree with that. I was going to comment that our timing actually isn't too bad right now, because if we start the process, let's say in September, and have bid documents by March or April, we'll have bids and we could possibly get shovels in the ground by, I'll make this up for, but by May or June next year. And that would give the much of the exterior work to be done in the better weather.
Right.
Get the exterior envelope taken care of next summer. And then the interior work is not as weather dependent, obviously. So I think the timing right now is probably fortuitous if we can get everybody moving for a September start.
So, Bill, in light of that, I would tend to agree. I don't know Rita, but Rita, I would tend to agree having the choice within the presentation is appropriate. But I believe there's an opportunity within the presentation for the committee to take a vote and make a recommendation, though ultimately it will be up to Board of Finance and Town Council. So, Bill, maybe are we at a point where people feel they have enough information to make the vote on whether they would prefer a new addition versus a renovated addition?
Yeah, I'll take it to you guys. Any more discussion, or should we ready to vote? If you guys are. And,
I'm ready to vote.
All right, to Rita's point.
Why don't we, before we take an official vote, why
Yeah.
don't we just go around and it's like a vote, but have each person who's on the committee sort of say where they're, I would just like a short sentence from everybody that's on the committee about which way they're leaning. And
Agreed.
why. And if that's okay, Bill.
Oh, sure.
Then I'll, so I'm happy to start. And it's sort of been it's been interesting to me because I think I really started with the preference for the original plan, which was, renovate as new, the structure as it is. And as we've dug in, because it is the lower price alternative, but as we've dug into this and as we've looked at the history of the building and how long it's been there, how infrequently we touch this building as a town, I think that the putting on the new addition with all, where you're basically getting your specialty spaces, which are the most complicated spaces in a police station, and you're being able to bring those and make those the most up to date, the most efficient. It's going to allow for the most efficient response times for the police. And it's going to allow the police to, maximize the efficiency of their force. It solves the locker room problem, which I think is, forces are changing. And I would hate to sort of, the first project was, you could do the first project, but I think as a town, we should give the police an appropriate structure that sets them up as well as we can. So my preference is, even though it's more expensive, is to go for the new addition on this. I thought the design that Brian had for how you could efficiently do it and add that covered parking and the high bays. I thought it added an awful lot for the town. So that's where I'm headed.
Jim?
Yeah, I pretty much second what Penny said. I would comment, and this was to Rita's and Mike's point a bit. Having looked at estimates on this building, I've been working in this building for 14 years, and having including the last renovation in 2008. And I think that this most recent estimate has been brought in doesn't want to ever be said that he lowballed anything, and everything is, I think, over the top in terms of cost. So I think this is the outside of the envelope, personal opinion. I think it can be done for less than they have outlined. But that's to TBD. And there are things we don't know, such as the supply chain problems and and financing and other things that'll come into play in the next year. So the scenario we just talked about would probably create a request to the town council and board of finance to come up with $1.5 million committed by September, and then come back to the town with a contract probably in the March or April timeframe for the total cost of the project. So we won't actually know what the cost of the project is going to be till March, April, May next year. Then we'll have actual bids in hand that we can take to the bank. So anyway, I think if the town council or the Board of Finance approve $28 million, this project can be brought in for less than $28 million, in my opinion.
Paul Tully?
Well, my first
I-
choice was certainly for tearing the whole place down and starting over, but that's politically not going to make it, right? So my vote would be for the town hall version.
Thank you, Paul. Paul Tully?
I agree with what Jim just said in the sense of costs. It's very hard to value engineer when you're designing a building with thinking about different types of renovations and then trying to take the costs that are involved in each one of them and trying to break them down and value engineer them. It's really hard to do that in this phase of the job. The next phase, once selected and once the design work begins, to Jim's point, I think we'll be able to value engineer this and tighten the numbers up. My choice would be to do like the town hall model, knock the back building down and renovate the front part of the building and give the police, arguably the most vital part, one of the most vital parts of a community, the right and proper building in order to be able to perform their jobs and to do the work that we ask them to do. So that's my perspective.
Thank you, Paul. Mike Morrow?
Sorry, I was on mute. The short answer is I'll vote to proceed forward the recommendation for the 28 million. And here's why. I mean, I agree with the preceding comments, especially Penny's. Over my course of time on town council, one of the issues with our capital projects is, what's the legacy cost in the future? And my concern after, sitting in on all of these calls is that if we don't do the new construction, we're going to have X costs down the road in the not so long near future. So I'd rather save that cost now and build it in here at this particular point in time. And I do a lot of work with developers and construction companies all around the country, $1 billion projects. So I know where this goes, 20, 30 years from now, where, someone, Tiger's, legacy person in his role will come to us and say, this building now needs X amount of renovation costs, and we're going to be giving the town a nice bill in the future. So when talk about cost increase and inflation 20, 30 years from now, I think the money would be better spent now and plus the functionality concern as well. So for those reasons and those stated before me, I'm going to move forward with the $28 million recommendation.
Thank you, Mike. And frankly, I agree with what you guys have said as well. I certainly was very excited about what could be done with just the existing envelope. But when you see the major advantages from a safety perspective that could be created with the town hall solution, if you will, I think that the incremental investment is certainly in the town's interest and vote to do it that way. So why don't we then take the formal vote? Because it sounds unanimous. All those in favor of presenting to the town bodies our recommendation of moving forward with a town hall solution, though to Rita's point, all of the things that we have considered will be presented to the town bodies in some kind of detail to make sure that they understand that there are choices, but that this building committee votes to move forward with a town hall recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? All right, thank you, guys. And thank you, all the people who have done the work on this. By the way, while I'm thinking out loud, Stuart, also a slide about showing that the current building is sound for another 100 years even as we renovate it as new. In other words, we don't want any questions about, about that going forward, that we have studied that in detail. And I don't know if that was necessarily put in the one of the slides, just to show that we have done a lot of work and brought in engineers and gotten a lot of opinions that the actual shell is good. Next would be item 5, which I guess we should go into executive session.
Can I just, all right, can I just make one just comment again? And I'm sorry, I had to step away for a second. I don't know if you had asked me my opinion, but with regard to the recommendation, I think we, and I apologize that this point has already been made, but I would make it super clear what we are losing, what will not, be happening, or what we'll be losing, or what the downsides are if we don't do that new addition, and make it super clear, and to make that comparison known.
Yes, thank you, Rita. Absolutely true. It's presented both as the advantages going, the pluses, but also a slide to the minuses as well, of what we are giving up by not moving forward with that kind of a solution. The compromise, the safety, in particular, the safety compromises that you're making, the planning compromises you're making about what a police force would look like in the future, but it is going to be for 50 years.
And realistically, right? Because I think, people are going to expect the presentation to be slanted one way or the other. And so I think the more reasonable and the more realistic that we make it, of course, you want to make it the choice clear, but I do think we need to make it, reasonable and not obviously slanted one way. It does need to be straightforward.
Absolutely true. Nothing that, as a former chairman of the town council, nothing is worse than trying to lead the jury. They want to make their own informed decisions with all the available information in front of them, and I couldn't agree more, Rita. Thank you. So I guess we're going into executive session now. Is that right, Joe?
That is correct. Tiger's going to lead us into executive session by inviting everyone.
All right.
How do you do that? Do we sign
we have to
into a
just-
different?
yeah. We're gonna have to decide who goes in. That's the problem.
Well,
I think it's the committee and the the advisors that go in, right? So I'm not sure who's,
Right.
so we'll have
There
to
are
say
others
goodbye
on-
to you, Rita.
no, well, Rita's a
Bye-bye.
town- I mean, okay. I mean, I can make the case that any, elected town official, and I don't know what the rules are, to be honest with you, but any elected town official and any employee of the town could be in the executive session. Technically, I would think, you're really just, you're trying to keep public comments away, that could, damage the reputations of our suppliers, right, of the architects. I don't know exactly who can and can't be on a executive session. I mean, if this was town council, it would just be town council members, yes. Kevin, does it matter, do you know?
I don't know whether it matters, Bill.
Yeah. I mean, you guys all comfortable talking about I think everyone here can keep other people's opinions about the architects to themselves, right? Is that kind of fair? Does anyone have a problem with everyone that's here right now just being on the?
I think it's all right. Who's does anybody who comes into this have to go through?
They have to go through me.
All right, perfect. Thank you,
Okay,
Tiger.
so you're not,
There's a gate.
nobody's gonna be able
I
to
won't,
join while
yeah,
we're
I'm
on.
not gonna,
Yeah,
I won't
all right.
admit anyone.
All right,
You
thank you
have to
so
be
much.
admitted.
I think a building committee is always allowed to have the town advisor. So I think, I'm looking at the list now and with the exception of Rita, I think everybody is fine.
Mhm.
Well, Mike and I would be the same.
Yeah.
No, you're not on the committee.
No, yeah, you gotta
So
be
you
appointed.
you would not be
Oh,
allowed.
I'm
to
sorry. I
executive
thought, I
session.
apologize. I thought,
No, sorry about that. I didn't mean, we always love your opinion, but this, that would be outside of the executive session.
Got it. I mean, I'm happy that I'm very fine to leave if that makes you feel more comfortable.
Well, I think we have to. That's the problem.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think,
that's fine.
yeah, I think you
Okay.
have to.
Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Rita.
Thanks, Rita.
Oh, okay, well, let's start the discussion on architects and
So just, can we make sure that we stop the recording?
Yes, stop the recording.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So who does that?
okay, we're out of executive session. So the building committee decided to select Jakunsky Humes as our architects moving forward. And thank you for the building committee for voting in that regard.
No, we haven't done that. We have to take a vote. We
okay,
just,
thank you.
so
Thank you.
I would make a motion that the building committee authorize the chair to move forward with negotiations with Brian Humes' firm for working on the police building project.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Anyone opposed?
No, let's move forward.
Okay, okay, unanimous.
Then I'd make a second motion to authorize the chair to expend an additional $25,000, up to an additional $25,000 as needed with the architect or otherwise to help aid the committee as we take this project to the town bodies for approval.
Second,
Second.
Jim, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, unanimous. Next steps. I think one of the things we talked to was scheduling a walkthrough, probably two walkthroughs, one during the day, one in the evening for the finance and town council. I think, these maybe did a while ago, but I think it's probably appropriate to get those on the set up now, Leon, so that we don't have any more delays with, going forward. And you and I will talk to get those two set up. Is that appropriate?
Absolutely.
Okay. Everyone agrees with that, right?
Right.
Can I just quickly, the notes that I have for potential improvements to the PowerPoint would be a historical timeline, would be a future timeline, would be to reduce and simplify the financial outlook to just two solutions, the 22-ish, the 28-ish, that maybe one slide describing the engineering studies that we have already performed on the building. One slide that more specifically describes the downside of simply renovating the existing, and then obviously to update the fact that the committee has agreed to select Brian and recommends an additional 25 to keep the project moving forward. Those would be the changes to the PowerPoint as I understand it. Did I miss anything?
That sounds good, Steve.
I think that sounds good. I think we'll get some more changes from Brian. And I think here's the other thing that I think we should be thinking about and maybe moving forward on at this time. And when you do one of these projects, you want to get the construction manager on pretty early, because if you get the construction manager on at the design phase, then a lot of times you could find, Paul, you could talk about this, but you can find, problems early on and avoid them. And so we've done that. We did that with the Saks project and it worked well. So I think that even though we're we're going to want a construction manager for
Right.
either project, but I think,
Absolutely.
I think we need to start that process about getting our whole, this is exciting. We have we have a project, we're gonna move forward. We're gonna need our entire team. And I think getting a CM and if we, Joe, you do an amazing job. And you've been acting sort of as our owner's rep, but this is going to be a big project. So I think we had talked about having an owner's rep as well. And so, we need to decide as a committee how we want to move forward with the whole team structure here. But we shouldn't put that off till September because that takes several months. You got to put out an RFP, you got to get proposals, you got to move forward. So I think we should be working on that as well.
On the second, what Penny
And
said.
I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so
I'll tell you,
not me.
On the SEX project, we were able to bring that in substantially under budget, largely through the help of the contractor, the GMP contractor and the owner's rep. The two together made a fantastic difference in cost control and making sure we had all the options to keep it under budget.
Who do we use for those projects, Jim?
We use ONG, let's see,
Was it ONG?
It was O&G.
yeah, ONG did the GMP and they were excellent on that. And then we had Gene, like the name of the firm right now.
Yep.
Right, but he doesn't do police buildings. I think that there are, he could. We would want to put out an RFP for an owner's rep if we want to go that way. And I think if we go through our notes, we might be able to find out who some of the ones are who worked on police build projects.
Right. I agree with Penny. I think it needs to be someone that has experience in the municipal building / police station world.
Yeah, good point.
Agreed.
Joe, do you have any comments on this?
So the one thing I would like to know is just, I think what I'm hearing, and I just wanted to say it back in a different way, so I make sure, is that we would have an owner's rep and the form of contract would be a CM with a GMP form of contract.
That is
Yeah.
correct. Yes.
Does everyone agree with that? Because I need to get the town attorney involved with just the format, and he'll need to know that.
Well, that's a good model. I think it's good, but anybody else opinion?
No, I agree.
I think that model tends to, save us the most money as a town.
Tiger, you want to weigh in on that or?
No, I think you're going down the right path.
Okay. So we'll do that as well. And right now we have July 12th Board of Finance meeting on the calendar. I will certainly be there to I'll present. Stuart, will you presumably be there if you can?
I'm going to be back. I'll be there.
Okay. Well, I'll talk with each of you to find out who can and can't be there. We'll set up the walkthroughs, and we'll start with I'll call Brian right now, I guess, and also talk to construction manager and owner's rep discussions as well with Joe, and I'll talk to Jim and Penny about that. Any other business we want to talk about right now before we adjourn?
Yeah, just one thing. Just so we don't forget about the training center, where are we on that, in that process?
Thank you, Kevin. Can you give us an update?
We're looking at the locations locally, and we're also monitoring, although quite frankly, I don't think the Westcog thing is going very far. And we have several issues to resolve about a local location. So we're actively working on it weekly. So.
Excellent. No, thank you, Kevin.
And Stuart, thanks again for pulling that presentation together. Very well done.
Really well done, Stuart. It just helps to when you can see it in front of you like that, to solidify our thoughts, really incredibly helpful. And all your input's really very much appreciated. Especially the building committees, we've given us a lot of thought and attention. Any other comments?
So there's one more technical thing. I don't think we voted for the project after we came out, and we're recording again after we came out of executive session. So
Okay.
I don't think we voted for what we're gonna recommend to the Board of Finance.
Just to
Oh,
clear that
no,
up.
didn't we do that before we went into executive session?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
I'm happy to
Sorry
vote
about
again
that.
if you want, but I think we did do it before.
I think so too.
I think it was unanimous for the full project.
Yes.
The town hall approach, yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that. And then the one last order of business is the placeholder for the range. We need to decide, because we're not gonna vote again. I mean, we're not gonna have a meet again before the next meeting.
Well,
So
why don't
do
we
you want to
just-
have a vote by the committee that the town has to have a placeholder for the range because we think it's a critical part of the project?
I'd leave it up to the committee, but yeah, I think that was the intent.
Right,
I
no, I
think
think
so.
that's the way, I think that's what the committee thinks. It's just we don't
Yes.
have a specific proposal as to where it is. But the town should know that that money is out there. You know, whether or not we're able to do it with Wilton or we have to do it, you know, in New Canaan.
Right.
So why don't we make a motion to something like the committee recognizes the need for a training facility and recommends that the Board of Finance and Town Council reserve a placeholder for a range in the quantity of approximately $2.5 million.
Would we call it a live fire facility?
No, no.
What do
No,
you, what's the,
Let's,
What do you
I'd like
wanna
to
call
call
it?
it the Police Education and Training Center.
Yes.
The only problem
Okay,
with
so-
the only problem with that, Leanna, is I don't want to take away from the fact that there's a education and training center in the police station, right? We're highlighting a lot of space in the building that we're proposing for training. And I don't want people to get confused with the placeholder going forward, because then they'll say, well, geez, why do they need this? Because it really is about the live fire going forward. And we've had, I've had discussions with people about, the semantics of what we're talking about. And there's pluses and minuses to both, but I don't want any confusion of the town bodies that, setting aside, $2.5 million as a placeholder, if you will. It's not just that it diminishes the amount of money we're going to spend on on refurbishing the building.
Yeah, maybe we can put a slide together for Board of Finance about that distinction.
Probably doesn't need a vote. We just put it on one of the Stewart slides.
Why don't we just call it the training facility then? Keep it simple.
I agree. Leave it broad for now.
Yeah.
And
Sounds
then
good.
we can hone down on it once we get and come up with a more descriptive name if we need to.
so wait a second. So I just want to know this, in this training facility, what are you all, I guess we could decide it, but we don't want it to be duplicative of what we're doing at
That's
the
not.
police station itself.
It's not, it's completely distinct.
So I think you have to, I think we're going to create huge confusion among the public if we do not somehow differentiate this
It's a
and
firearm.
indicate that this involves live fire.
It's a firearms training center.
That's.
But it's more than that too. It's not just a firearms training center, right? It's
No.
more than that. It
Well, we
has a
have-
fire range. It's more like a training center with shooting range.
Right.
Well, that's a firearms training center. There's nothing other than firearms training, so.
But I think if you emphasize firearms, I think all of a sudden you've lost half the people. Right away, they're going to be like, all right, forget it. It's firearms. It's guns. We don't want to talk about it. I think it's more than guns. I think it's actually, in my opinion, it's actually training so that we don't have to use guns. I honestly believe that. And I think that if we look what's going on in the country right now, I think the minute you say, oh, it's a firing range, it's done. The people are not going to want it.
I mean, we could think through it, but maybe use of force training center, something like that. I don't know.
That makes sense. And also the fact we can bring vehicles in.
Yep.
Other things that are not suitable for the police station.
That's right.
Yeah, I just,
And a slide and a discussion so people understand the new building we're talking about, you know, the refurbishing police building, the police station, the things we'll be able to do for training there, you know, that we plan to take the game up dramatically. What the new space will allow us to do from in that perspective. And then also say what you can't do there, which is obviously shoot an actual gun. And therefore what the other training facility will be able to accomplish wherever it is and whatever it looks like.
All right, well, this is a presentation question. I think this is the sense of the committee. I don't think we need a formal vote, so we don't need to decide on the exact words. You know, I appreciate all that, but does anybody oppose including this slide and this and telling the town bodies that they have to solve this issue?
Yeah. Let's do what Leon suggested and change live fire to use of force training facility.
Okay. Use of force.
And the $2.5 million placeholder. Is that the number you guys like? Because obviously it can be a lot less if we go with, if another town steps up, like Wilton or someone like that, though, as Kevin said, they are working in it's not on the front burner right now for Wilton. Is that correct, Kevin?
Well, they're not making much progress.
What's that?
They are not making much progress. You know, I think their plan is ambitious to have too many agencies involved, which and Newtown is kind of, too far for us. So it's not but Wilton would be a consideration if Wilton's going to really move forward with a partner. So.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest that when we get a number on this, we work with Brian on it. He's built these before, rather than, and maybe we do a range, a range, depending upon whether we're able to work with another town or we have to go it alone. But we just, it's a key part of having an appropriately trained police force.
All right, so then do we want to have then a placeholder slide in here for $2.5 million?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, excellent, good.
Okay, any other business before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Thank you, guys.
Second, all in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Oh, the biggest news.
What?
Paul, are you still there?
Yeah,
Paulie? Tell us, buddy.
I'm not telling you.
I'll tell everybody.
No.
He had a hole in one yesterday.